Hey everyone, today I want to talk about what the best builds for patch 7 are. I've sunk around 180 hours into the test server for this patch, and the test server going from test to live has basically not changed at all. So I've narrowed down already pretty much what the best builds are since I have sunk so much time into the test server and it really hasn't changed. So I'm going to have chapters in this video for every class if you want to skip to whatever class is most interesting to you, but I'm going to start right here with Tactical. Alright, starting with Tactical. Really quick, I want to preface that Tactical is an insanely overpowered class right now, and you can use pretty much any weapon you want, but obviously I'm going to be focusing on what the best weapons are. So I'm going to start with the Plasma build, since I think this is best build at the moment. Plasma Incinerator, Plasma Pistol, Chainsword. I'm going to start with the perk tree. So we're going to be using a Plasma Boost, since we're using two Plasma weapons, and it works on both of these. So we're double dipping into this perk, getting 40% extra damage on both our primary and our secondary, and getting some better ammo economy with one less energy consumed on charge shots. Versatility, we're taking for Plasma Pistol, since versatility is perfect for Plasma Pistol since you don't need to reload. It's just a flat 25% buff no matter what when you're using Plasma. And this also makes it so Plasma Pistol gets really, really close to Plasma Incinerator's damage, so you effectively have a pocket Plasma Incinerator. Now, for Emperor's Vengeance, I think everybody knows this perk is insanely overpowered. It makes it so you pretty much have unlimited ammo, especially on Plasma Incinerator this patch, since Plasma Incinerator is already super ammo efficient right now on Tactical. For the team perk, we're taking Aligned Aim, just to stack even more damage with Plasma Boost and just our Plasma weapons, since kind of the entire goal of Tactical is just damage, 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 and your teammates benefit from this 15% damage buff, which is nice. Predator targets, really, really good perk. Scanning Minoris is not that great. You don't really scan Minoris ever. It's pretty bad. Minoris are pretty easy to kill, especially on Tyranids, where you can just kill a Majoris enemy or an Extremist, and Synaptic Burst just kills everything around it. But the main reason we're taking this is to pair with Battle Focus, and same thing with all three of these perks. Battle Focus, I think, is the strongest perk in the game. I think it's genuinely stronger than Invigorating Icon, even. It makes it so that you can have 24/7 uptime on a 200% damage buff, effectively, which is crazy. You just delete everything from the game that you parry. And segueing into that is Concentrated Fire. Uh, Battle Focus completely removes the one caveat of Concentrated Fire where they have to stay in the Auspex bubble, because for some reason, parry scans get the 120% extra damage buff that Concentrated Fire gives you. So when you parry something, it effectively gets scanned for 16 seconds with a 120% damage buff, along with the default, I believe, 70% or 100% damage buff on Auspex. And then along with that, when you perfect parry something, there is just an inherent mechanic in the game where they take 50% more damage. So those all stack together for a well over 200% damage buff. Absolutely insane. You will delete pretty much everything in the game with this build. Radiating Impact, I think, is the best signature for attack. I personally think Marked for Death is super, super overrated, especially since we're using two plasma weapons. I do believe it still procs, but trust me, you don't need this on Tactical. Tactical already obliterates everything in the game, and Radiating Impact just exacerbates that, because when this procs, if you're surrounded by a whole bunch of Majoris, they all become executable or die. Most likely die. It's a disgusting perk, and when you use it and you get value out of it, you understand why it is so insanely good. Now for the Prestige perks. I personally, for the Plasma build, would go with Skilled Supplier, then Fortitude, then Resilience, and Shared Power. However, when you're using not Plasma, I would definitely pick up Acuity, and I would swap either Shared Power or Resilience for Acuity. Now that that's done, we're going to talk about the weapons really quick. So, first of all, Plasma Incinerator. We're using the Rate of Fire variant. Since this thing doesn't really struggle with ammo and plasma weapons, you kind of just want to min-max fire rate, since Rate of Fire affects their charge time. In the perk tree, similar story. We're just going with as much charge time as we can, getting the ammo perks as well, more damage as well. And something I do want to talk about really quick is Adamant Velocity. When this is procced, it is crazy. You do so much damage with Plasma Incinerator. It is literally one of the highest DPS weapons in the game with this, and even without it, it's still insanely high DPS. But with this, it is like a top, I think, 3 or 4 highest DPS weapon in the game. Obviously, I know a lot of people aren't comfortable playing it at that low of HP, so I just want to say it is not necessary. You do not need to play at this low of HP, but it is something to be aware of. When you're that low, you will be pumping absolutely insane damage. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty much it for Plasma Incinerator. Now for Plasma Pistol, for the variants, you have 2 options here. I personally go with the Rate of Fire variant. However, if you struggle with ammo on the Plasma Pistol, you can go with the ammo variant. It's perfectly fine over the Rate of Fire variant, but I personally prefer the Rate of Fire variant since I don't really struggle with ammo, and this makes it so your DPS is even higher. This is the build I go with, kind of the same idea as Plasma Incinerator. We're just going as much ammo as we can, getting the damage perks and the charge time perks. And that's pretty much it. I don't change this at all. Now, really quick before I move on to Chainsword, I do want to talk about something I'm going to dub and why this build is so strong, and what I'm going to dub as plasma swapping. So, you can effectively dump your Plasma Incinerator to just right before it overheats, and then switch to your Plasma Pistol, dump your Plasma Pistol, and swap back to your Plasma Incinerator, and repeat. It basically makes it so you have a 0 downtime on your weapon. There's no reload because your weapon is just going to be cooling down in your pocket while you're shooting your Plasma Pistol, for example. Now, the reason I said you shouldn't try to get it to overheat is there is a weird quirk bug, I'm not sure what it is, where when you overheat, say, your Plasma Incinerator and then switch over to your Plasma Pistol, there's a little lockout period where you can't shoot your Plasma Pistol. It's not insanely long, I don't even think it's as long as a second, but it's noticeable and it's a little annoying. I just wanted to mention that. It's not a necessity if you need to overheat, like if you need to get an extra shot out or you overheat your plasma, it's not the biggest deal in the world, it's just something to be aware of. Alright, now talking about the Chainsword variant. So I know a lot of people have probably been looking at the purple chainsword in my loadout and wondering why am I using a purple chainsword. So there has always been a pretty big debate between the block Artificer chainsword versus the block Relic chainsword, and I am personally on the side of the Artificer chainsword being better. The breakpoints between the two are basically the same. They usually take around the same amount of hits, and if they don't, because this has more speed, the time to kills are basically the same. But I will say, use both of these and just find whichever one you prefer. They are both top tier picks, and I think it's mostly just preference. If anything, I will say that the Relic Chainsword is probably better for bossing, but the Artificer Chainsword is probably better for everything else. But I am going to recommend, if you are not comfortable with a block variant, to just use a fencing variant, even though fencing variant is not great, and block chainsword is definitely the best chainsword. Balanced is just terrible. Now for the perk tree, I'm only really going to talk about 2 perks here, and that's Swift Recovery, which gives you double contested health on your heavy attacks, which is really good because we're going to be spamming Shoulder Bash, and segueing into that, we're taking full throttle to spam Shoulder Bash. So if you're unaware, there is a tech, a animation cancel, whatever you want to call it in this game, called full throttle skipping. I will have a link in the description to a guide for it, but effectively it makes it so that you can skip light 1 and go to light 2, so that instead of doing light shoulder bash, you can do light shoulder bash, light shoulder bash, light shoulder bash, and just loop that over and over. And shoulder bash is easily the best attack on chainsword. It does ridiculous damage, it's fantastic for horde clear, and since it does so much damage, it's really good at getting you contested health. Everything else here is damage perks, nothing super interesting here to talk about, but yeah, go learn full throttle skipping, it's insanely important for chainsword. And that's pretty much it for the plasma version of this build. Now I want to talk about the other variant for this build, which is just the default bullet build. If you're using any bullet weapon, these are the perks I would change to for it, using Heightened Vigor and Balanced Distribution. Heightened Vigor gives you Hyper Armor, which Hyper Armor, to explain what it does, because I think there's a lot of confusion on what Hyper Armor exactly does, effectively, When you have this perk procced and you have hyper armor, whenever you would take a damage source from something that does 1 pip of armor, you will not stagger at all, it will do nothing to you, you will just take the damage. However, if you take damage from something that does more than 1 pip of armor, you will stagger. It will just be a much lighter stagger, and you will never get knocked over with this perk active. And of course, since this is a bullet-based version, I would do Acuity, like I said earlier. You can either swap Spare Power or Resilience. For Acuity, personal preference between which one you want to swap. Now, for the actual weapons, this is the Bolt Carbine I use. I always use the ammo variant. Bolt Carbine is absolutely insane. One of the highest DPS weapons again. You're going to notice a theme with these 3 weapons. They are some of the highest DPS weapons in this game. I always use the ammo variant, since the accuracy variant is not really worth it. I'd rather have the extra magazine capacity. And this is the variant I go with, or the build I go with for Bolt Carbine. And we're basically just stacking as much damage as we can, getting 3 just normal damage perks to get 30% here, and 3 headshot damage perks to get a total of 60% extra damage when you are landing headshots. Nothing else really to talk about here. Again, you're just stacking damage with Bolt Carbine, getting in close, and doing a lot of Bolt Carbine things. It's a very good weapon. Don't sleep on this. So, for the Heavy Bolt Pistol, we actually do drop Plasma for the bullet-based builds. I personally use the damage variant over the ammo variant, but again, personal preference here. If you really do struggle with ammo on your bolt pistol or heavy bolt pistol, you can go with the ammo variant, but the damage variant does give you a lot of damage. It is a 20% damage boost over this one. For the perk tree, again, similar story, we're just getting ammo and stacking as much damage as we can. Getting a lot of headshot perks, and yeah, not too much to talk about here, just mostly damage perks, and this is what I think the best build for it is on tactical. Chainsword, same thing as before, all the same perks, and same thing, Artificer block variant, although you can use Relic block. And now, same thing for these 2 on the Stalker Bolt Rifle variant. So I'm just going to show you the Stalker Bolt Rifle build I use, which I use the Rate of Fire variant. Again, ammo is not an issue on tactical. You don't need the ammo variant on this, and the Rate of Fire variant is the highest DPS version of all the variants, going from 150 RPM, which is what these 2 are, to an RPM of 180. It's very noticeable. For the perk tree, again, similar story, we're just taking damage, but I do want to talk about Reloaded Restoration. This perk is super misunderstood, and it's kind of doesn't work very intuitively, so I'm going to try to explain how it works really quick, because this is one of the best perks in the game when you understand how it works. So, the perk description is correct, where when you shoot enemies, 50% of the numbers of enemies hit is loaded back into your reserves. So effectively it increases your ammo by 50%. But something it doesn't tell you is when you, let's say, shoot a whole bunch of enemies, swap weapons, you do something with your pistol or whatever, and then swap back to your Stalker Bolt Rifle reload, the perk won't proc. You can't swap weapons because it will deactivate the stored ammo. So preferably what you want to do if you're going to swap weapons is shoot a whole bunch of enemies with it, reload to get your ammo, and then swap weapons. Just wanted to clarify that really quick with this perk, since it is very strong. I just feel like it is a super misunderstood perk. But yeah, that's pretty much tactical and what I think the best builds are. To recap, I think Plasma Incinerator is the best for him. So yeah, all I really got to say about tactical, he's a pretty simple class. Alright, now for Assault. So really quick before I get into the class perk tree, I want to talk about Power Fist really quick, since I know there's probably a lot of you that are returning to the game that did not play last patch in 6.0 and didn't see that this happened. Power Fist got a little miniature rework in patch 6. It works a little differently now. So first of all, the heavy attack has always had a kind of ranged shockwave, but it was really short. This description is still bugged. It used to be 4 meters, and you could increase it to 8 meters with Tides of Battle, but now, by default, the shockwave is 10 meters, and with Tides of Battle, it doubles to 20 meters. Along with that, the heavy attacks are now a multi-stage charge, similar to Aftershock on Hammer, Full Throttle on Chainsword, or Shadow Step, or Shadow Stab, or whatever it's called, on the combat knife. So I'm going to be referencing that a lot. It has 3 charges, level 1 charge, level 2 charge, level 3 charge. I'm probably going to be referencing level 2 charge and level 3 charge a lot. So just wanted to get that out of the way really quick before I talk about the perks for Assault. So first of all, we're taking Overcharge, since on Assault with Power Fist, you're going to be using the charged attacks all of the time. It's basically the only attacks you use with Power Fist because the light attacks kind of suck, but the charged attacks are insanely busted. And this also makes it, when you combine it with Knowledge of the Enemy, so that you can get a one-shot breakpoint on Assault with certain variants of the Power Fist. So you can straight up max charge one-shot a Majoris enemy, which is really strong. Now for second column, I go with Consecutive Execution because equipment generating perks are insanely overpowered. Getting a Melt Bomb every 90 seconds is busted. Getting Crack Grenades every 90 seconds is insanely busted. Super strong perk. However, you can go with Auxiliary Arsenal if you want to just pump as much damage into your Heavy Bolt Pistol as you can, especially because with one of the Prestige perks, Practice Aim, you can get a 35% damage buff, and it makes Heavy Bolt Pistol absolutely insane on the damage department. So, like I said, with Knowledge of the Enemy, we're taking Knowledge of the Enemy with Overcharge to get that one-shot breakpoint on Majoris, and it also makes it so you just do some absolutely insane damage to Extremis. Now, Strategic Strikes, we are mainly taking this for us. It's really nice for Extremis and Terminus. You will do some absolutely insane damage to them, but it's not necessary. So if you want to be a little bit more of a team player with your team perks, you can go with Proven Efficiency, but again, I don't think most of the team perks on Assault you're taking for your team. You're mainly taking them for you, so I would just take this for you, personally. Now for the Slam variants. I know a lot of people with this build like to run Precision Strike, and I used to, but the issue is that Power Fist kind of struggles with Horde Clear. And just running normal AoE Slam makes it so Horde Clear is absolutely crazy, and Power Fist has one of the better slam damages and AoEs compared to the other weapons, because every weapon in this game, slam basically scales off of the base damage of every weapon, which is why Thunderhammer is so good with slam. But yeah, I always run Hammer of Wrath, since 10% ground pound damage is basically nothing, and getting Hyper Armor and 15% less range damage after slam is really nice. And something as well to note is, and why I personally run AoE slam, is if you AoE slam into an enemy, or Precision Strike slam, it's always the same breakpoint of you are going to get to level 2 charge, and then punch them, and then they're executable. Which is why I personally prefer AoE slam. So, for next column, Zealous Blow, I think everybody knows this is probably the best perk. You can go with Maneuverability, but Zealous Blow, especially with AoE slam, is just perfect combo. You get to spam slams. And now for this column, I go with Pride and Duty because Diligence, in my opinion, is kind of a trap, because charging slam is not good and will get you killed a lot of the time. And this also does more damage, and you're doing finishers all the time, so you'll basically have this up 24/7 over Diligence, and Diligence has a downside which I don't like. So yeah, I just personally pick Pride and Duty because I never charge slam. I instantly cast slam. I don't sit there and charge it because it's too risky. Now for the signature perks, Ample Ammunition is like the only one I would take with this build. Ascension is kind of a meme. It doesn't really do anything. And Ample Ammunition gives you a massive 50% damage buff to your ranged weapon. It makes Heavy Bolt Pistol hit like an absolute truck. Now for the Prestige perks, I'm gonna be honest, Assault's Prestige perks are still really bad. But I will give you probably what I would go with, which is definitely Adrenaline Boost with probably boosted recharge, even though it's pretty bad. Practice Aim and Fortitude, although I think all 6 of these right here are pretty interchangeable for personal preference. Like, for example, you could go Duelist. I personally don't need Duelist because I know the timings on parries pretty well, but if you're struggling with parry timings and perfect block windows, it's a good perk to pick. I don't really have a best to nail down here because they're all just kind of mid perks, other than like Fortitude is like a must pick. Practice Aim is really good, just getting a flat 15% damage boost. And then everything else is kind of just personal preference. The only one I would say to actively avoid is Commendation. Res perks in this game in general are really niche. So yeah, and it just not great just getting all your jump pack charges and all your armor segments on a res when most of the time you're probably not even going to get any value out of this perk. So I would just go with any of these. I would probably say, again, Fortitude, probably Adrenaline Boost, Practice Aim, and like Scramble Target or Duelist. Realistically, I personally go with Boosted Recharge, but it's not good to get most of the time. You don't get armor boosts very often to get any real value out of this. But yeah. So now for the Heavy Bolt Pistol. Same thing as before with TAC is this build. We're basically just stacking as much damage as we can. However, I do go with the ammo variant on Assault since this is your primary weapon. It's not really a secondary, so I would rather have as much ammo as I can get for it. Now, Power Fist. So Power Fist is a little weird. Obviously, I'm using a very weird Power Fist. I'm using Artificer block, same thing with Chainsword. And that's because the block variant on normal Power Fist sucks. It's terrible. Do not use this. And a lot of you, I'm sure, are looking at the speed stat and being like, that speed looks terrible. It's going to be super slow. And it is on light attacks, but again, we are using charge attacks for the most part. And charge attacks don't get affected by speed. However, normal attacks do. And like in between animations and such. Which is why this is a new perk called Following Blow. And it effectively makes it so that you can follow up with a heavy or a light instantly after doing a charged heavy attack. And it is very good in this patch, and you definitely notice it on lower speed weapons. It does have a lower cast time, but it's honestly not that bad since when you hit an enemy that can survive a Power Fist hit, they will get staggered. So you can follow it up pretty easily. And the amount of damage you can do when you get both block stacks is absolutely crazy. I will say though, the fencing and balanced variant are both very good. The balanced variant can hit the one-shot breakpoint, as well as the block variant, obviously. These two hit the one-shot breakpoint that I've been talking about throughout this video. However, Fencing Fist cannot. It doesn't hit the one-shot breakpoint, however, on Chaos at the very least, the follow-up, if you do a fully charged attack and then do the follow-up, it will kill a Chaos Majoris, which is nice for Chaos because it has a lot of speed, so you'll do it really quick. However, Cleave is actually a really important stat on Power Fists because it dictates how many enemies you can hit, which is why I personally like the Artificer Power Fist because it has a really high cleave stat with really high damage. So let's say there's a whole bunch of Minoris in front of me and there's a Majoris I want to hit. There's a much higher chance I'm going to hit that Majoris with the block variant over the fencing variant, which can only hit 3 enemies because it's 2+. I know it says 2+, but it hits 3 enemies. And then obviously even a higher chance with the balanced variant since it's 4+, I get to hit 5 enemies, which is really nice. But yeah, for the perk tree, we're basically just stacking damage, getting Tides of Battle for the range. It will increase the shockwave range on your heavy attack to 20 meters, which is really nice. Again, Following Blow, which I just talked about, is a really good perk. And then we're picking up the charge time decrease because, again, we're using a lot of charged attacks. You're hardly using light attacks on Power Fist. It's mostly just the charge attack. And then, again, most of this is just damage. Focus Intent is really nice for when you're charging and just trying to tank through for damage, but other than that, again, pretty simple. You're just taking up mostly damage for Power Fist. And that's pretty much it for Assault. I don't really have much else to say for him. This build is just pretty damn crazy against Chaos and Tyranids. Okay, so Vanguard now. I'm going to be showing 2 builds for Vanguard because I think Vanguard has two insanely strong builds. I think the second one I'm going to show is actually stronger, but this one is just easier to use and easier to pick up. Anybody can pick this up and do well with it, so I'm going to show it because it's just a very consistent and very, very easy build to use. The second build is a little bit harder to use, but I think once you understand it, it is monumentally better than this build. So first of all, with the perk tree, we're using Upper Hand for Hyper Armor. Again, like I've said with Hyper Armor a lot throughout this video, it is very good, and just a quick explanation of how it works. It makes it so any attack that does 1 armor pip of damage does not stagger you at all, but if it does any more, it will stagger you. However, the stagger will be much, much less, and you can never be completely knocked over, only a small stagger. Again, you're parrying, blocking, dodging all the time, so you'll have almost permanent uptime on this. Conviction is really nice for just a flat damage resist when your armor breaks. Your armor is going to break a lot in this game, and it just makes it so you have a little bit more room for error. However, if you do struggle with parry windows, you can go with Duelist, but I personally don't, so I don't, but it is an option. And also, Close Combat is pretty good, but I personally think Conviction is better. For Consecutive Execution, like I said with Assault, equipment generating perks are insanely overpowered and super, super strong, and honestly, the other two perks in this column kind of suck for how you play this build. Considering this build, you're probably going to be at max health most of the time, so you won't get really any value out of Honed Reaction. And Retribution is just not that great of a perk. It's okay, it's nice when it procs, but you shouldn't really be getting grabbed or knocked back that much in this game. So I'd rather just get effectively a Melta Bomb every 90 seconds. Very strong, don't sleep on equipment generating perks. Now, Unmatched Steel is crazy right now. Getting 30% of your health back on a Extremis or Terminus melee finisher for everybody on your team. Effectively, anybody who finishes a Extremis or Terminus enemy gets 30% of their health back. Effectively, it's just constant free stim packs. I don't really have much to say. It's free 30% heal on melee Extremis finishers, and for yourself, it does stack with Adrenaline Rush. So you get 35% whenever you melee finisher an Extremis or above. Now, Relentless Fortitude, just more damage resist, more survivability. That's kind of the entire goal of this build, is just to be basically unkillable. And getting 40% less range damage after a dive kick is really strong. Tip of the Spear is really good. More range damage after a dive kick, or your Bolt Carbine, which already does crazy damage. You will be shredding anything that gets hit by Tip of the Spear. And again, Grim Determination, you're going to have your grapple on cooldown a lot. Now, something to note is this procs when both of your grapple charges are on cooldown, not when just one are on cooldown. But most of the time, you're going to have them on cooldown anyway, so you're just getting a 15% damage buff for free. And then, of course, we're going with Adrenaline Rush. Melee kills of Majoris level enemies are higher, restore 5% health. Something to actually note, you don't actually need to finish the enemy. If you just kill them with a melee, it actually gives you the health. So obviously you can do finishers to be safer, but if you don't need to do a finisher but just want the heal, you can literally just kill them with your melee, and it will heal you for 5% of your health. So for prestige perks, first one I would take is Battlefield Awareness. Flat 10% damage for being within 8 meters of an enemy. You're going to be in 8 meters of an enemy a lot of the time. The next one I would take is definitely Launch Restoration. It is super, super good. Just getting an armor segment for grappling to an enemy is absolutely insane. Fortitude, more health means you're going to get more value out of your healing perks. And then the last one I would take is probably Indomitable Spirit, or maybe even Well Equipped, but I would probably go with Indomitable Spirit for the Prestige perk. Now, for the weapons, I use the ammo variant of the Bolt Carbine, because having a larger mag size means you have a larger total damage and you don't have to have as much downtime. The accuracy variant, in my opinion, is just not that great for the Bolt Carbine. And we're going with just pumping as much damage as we can again. Same thing with TAC. We're going to be going with the 30% headshot damage and 30% normal damage to get a total of 60% more damage when you're headshotting an enemy. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about bolt carbine. Pretty simple. Now, for heavy bolt pistol, again, if you want, you can go with the ammo variant. I personally go with the damage variant because I personally don't see the use case for having more ammo because it's your secondary, and I would rather just have more damage since you mainly use this to snipe enemies to make up for the lack of range for bolt carbine. Now for the perk tree, I do go this perk tree, but you can go down here and get this perk instead. So an alternate way I build it is going this way. So we just go down here, pick up these perks, and getting this because you're using your class ability a lot, so you'll have almost 24/7 uptime on this. And then I dip up here to get this perk because it is very strong. But yeah, that's two ways you can build heavy bolt pistol for Vanguard. And for chainsword, again, we're using the block variant for the block artificer variant for that speed. It's really nice. But again, if you prefer the block relic variant, by all means, use it. They are both very good. And yeah, but again, I'm personally in artificer block gang. Now, for the perk tree, not too much to say about this. Swift recovery is really nice for contested health regeneration, which actually stacks with your default 50% faster contested health regeneration, so you have 150% better contested health regeneration with this perk on Vanguard. And we're taking full throttle, not because of actual full throttle, but because of full throttle skipping. Like I said on tactical, I will have a guide linked in the description below on how to do full throttle skipping. Effectively, what full throttle skipping is normally for shoulder bash, for example, which is what the best attack is on chainsword. It does the most damage, it has the best horde clear, it has really good stagger. Normally you would have to do 2 lights and then a heavy to get the shoulder bash, but if you learn full throttle skipping, it's just light, shoulder bash, instead of light, light, shoulder bash, light, light, shoulder bash. Anyway, if you want to learn that, and I highly recommend learning it, it's super good to learn. I will have a link in the description for a guide on how to do it. But anyway, that's this build for Vanguard. I'm going to talk about the other build, which I think is much better. It's just a little bit harder to use, I feel like. Alright, now for the second build for Vanguard. So, the perk tree largely looks the same. We're taking Unmatched Zeal, same thing. Consecutive Execution, Conviction, Upper Hand, all really strong perks. This part of the tree is going to look a little different, though. So, we're taking collateral damage just because Restless Fortitude doesn't work with how this build functions. It actually doesn't work, which kind of sucks because I would rather take this perk, but well, we take collateral damage just because it's the only perk here that would actually function with how this build works. Zone of Impact, performing a finisher with a grapple launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. This perk is literally what makes this build so insanely overpowered, and we're combining it with tactical prowess. This is probably the most slept on signature perk in the game. I genuinely do think that this build is stronger than the just super tanky Adrenaline Rush build because you have a lot of damage this build, and just more versatility in my opinion. Because I don't think you need Adrenaline Rush and Unmatched Zeal. It's just a little overkill in my opinion for healing. But yeah, these two perks combined do absolutely crazy damage, and I'm going to talk about, because a lot of people struggle with figuring out how to identify when something is executable in that 33% health threshold, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But we're going to take combat readiness, since we're pretty much always going to have our grapple, like 1 or 2 grapple charges with this build, so we're never going to really have this procced, and we might as well just regenerate grapples faster if we whiff a grapple. Okay, so a lot of people struggle to identify how and when an enemy is executable with this build, and the best way to do it, there are 2 ways, is either using the lock-on system, and if you see 1 red bar on the little shield when you lock onto an enemy, that means they're executable for the grapple. You grapple them and you will execute them. Or when you shoot an enemy, they have a kind of glow to them, and this is actually a way that the game indicates their health bar. And when you see it kind of go orangish red, that means that they're like the glow around them go orangish red. That means that they are executable, and you can use Vanguard's execute and start getting a chain going. So yeah, I've probably shown some stuff on screen of just how insane this build is and how you can just completely wipe boards with it. It is disgusting. It works perfectly against Chaos and Tyranids. It's great against both. I would say this build is even better against Chaos. But yeah, and then for the prestige perks, pretty much the same perks here. We're just taking Battlefield Awareness, Indomitable Spirit, Launch Restoration, and Fortitude, which Launch Restoration is even better on this build because when you grapple to an enemy, you get the initial armor from it, and then you'll execute it, getting more armor. So every time you execute now, you're getting 2 armor, which is insanely good. Now, for Oculus Bolt Carbine, the reason we're using this, you can use any of these 3 weapons here, but Oculus Bolt Carbine synergizes this build probably the best because you are usually shooting a Majoris from range, and then you see that it's executable, you grapple over to it, and you execute it. Bolt Carbine doesn't really work with this build that well. It can work, you can use it perfectly fine with this build. I have found success with it. Instigator as well, you can get a lot of success out of, but I do think Oculus Bolt Carbine is the best of the 3. And we're going to be using the accuracy ammo hybrid variant, not the full accuracy one, not the full ammo one, but the accuracy ammo hybrid variant. And this is the build I go with. Again, we're just stacking damage, but we are getting recruitment. This perk is really strong. This is a new perk in the patch. Killing a Majoris with a headshot restores 1 armor segment, and this essentially means if you get something that's executable across the map, and you don't want to go all the way over there to get the armor from him, you can just shoot him, headshot him till he's dead, and you will just basically siphon the armor from him across the map. Really good. And then we're taking able damage, since on this build in particular, we are absolutely spamming our class ability. So you're going to have this up almost all the time. And yeah, it's just mostly stacking damage, and not really else much to talk about here. It just works really well with how you're playing this build. Heavy bolt pistol. Again, I would highly recommend this build actually with this, since again, we're going to be absolutely spamming our class ability. It's going to be off cooldown almost all the time if you're playing this build correctly. And yeah, so I go with the damage variant because it takes like 3 or 4 shots, maybe like 6 at most, in order to get a Majoris to be within execute range. It's really good with this build. It's crazy how good Heavy Bolt Pistol is with this build. But if you want, again, you can go with the ammo variant. Same thing with Chainsword, same variant, same build. Again, I'm just gonna say this probably a million times in this video. Go learn full throttle skipping. I have a guide in the link in the description. Yeah, it's super worth learning full throttle skipping. Literally the only reason you take this perk. But yeah, so that's Vanguard. Alrighty, now on to Bulwark. So for the perk tree on Bulwark, we're going to be using Intimidating Aura. Intimidating Aura is absolutely busted since patch 6. Effectively, if you parry something, proc Intimidating Aura, Gunstrike, it'll be executable, and then you just Gunstrike it again and it'll die. For basically any Majoris in the game, you parry it, it dies. So Intimidating Aura is just like, if you want to have the most meta build in the game, it's absolutely a must. We're taking Scramble Targeting because these other 2, Armor of Contempt is really bad, and then Shock and Awe is conditioned to be used with defensive advantage. So yeah, it's just nice for being extra tanky, but that's about it. Now for this column, we're taking Steel Within just because we're just trying to be as tanky as we can with this build. Since Bulwark with Power Fist already does enough damage, especially with one of the prestige perks I'm going to talk about. But yeah, Steel Within, absolutely crazy. It makes it so it's almost impossible to die with Bulwark, if I'm being honest. I genuinely think it's so hard to die with this build, especially if you're running Invigorating Icon, which you're going to get to in a second. Advanced Conditioning, this is the best team perk in the game, not even a competition. It is so insanely strong. I don't think any team perk actually even comes close. It effectively makes it so your contested health will drain half at half the speed that it normally does, which gives you double the amount of time to get more health from when you take damage. Now for Purity of Purpose, this is basically just a shock grenade on cooldown. It's really good. It makes your banner even safer. It'll kill all the Minoris around it. It'll make the Majoris take a lot of damage. Like, it does way more damage than you think. It really does add up. Yeah, pretty simple. It's basically just a shock grenade on your banner. Now, Invigorating Icon, I don't think I need to explain why Invigorating Icon is so good. I think everybody knows that this perk is insanely overpowered, and I would say it's the second best perk in the game behind Battle Focus. It has been nerfed, but honestly, it's still just absolutely overpowered. Getting a full health heal for everybody on your team every 3 minutes is still absolutely insane. And then if you have a Vanguard on your team with Enter Fire, it's just even more busted. Now, alternate option is Glorious Shield. This is a very good perk, very slept on, but Invigorating Icon is still technically better. Now, for Inspiration, 20% more damage for anybody who's in the banner. Really strong effect. You can take Res Banner if you really want, but personally I think just placing Banner to res people is just fine. Or resing people and then placing the banner for Invigorating Icon. But again, it is perfectly viable in co-op to take a rejuvenating effect. Now for the signature perk, Armored Advance is the best signature perk for Bulwark in my opinion. I've been hyping Hyper Armor a lot in this game, or in this video. And this is the best Hyper Armor perk in the entire game, because it's just, if you have armor, you get Hyper Armor. So anytime you would take only 1 pip of armor damage, you don't stagger at all. Anytime you take more, you take a very light stagger. Very good. I think it's better than these two, although, again, I think all the signature perks for Bulwark are really good. But I do think Armored Advance is the best. Now, for the Prestige perks, the first one I would take is Overcharge, and that's because we're using Power Fist. Overcharge, charge attack damage is increased by 20%. This makes it so you can hit breakpoints for Power Fist, along with the follow-up attack that I talked about on Assault. And it makes Power Fist even better on this class, and I already thought Power Fist was the best melee for this class, but it's even better now. For the second one, I would probably take Standard Bearer or Masterful Defense, one of the two. Getting Invulnerability for 2 seconds on Chapter Banner Activate is really strong. Masterful Defense is disgustingly good. You can get your ability back in like a few seconds from just sitting there and blocking damage. That's the third one I would take. And then Powerful Shot is the fourth. Now, if you struggle with ammo a lot, you can take Auxiliary Reload. I personally don't think it's necessary, because you effectively have 2 ranged weapons in this class with Power Fist and Heavy Bolt Pistol, so I'd rather just amp the damage of Heavy Bolt Pistol, but it is an option, and you can also take Resilience as well as your 4th perk. It's a toss-up between these 3 in my opinion, on which one you want to take. Personal preference again, but I definitely think Powerful Shot is the best of these 3. So, for the weapons, Heavy Bolt Pistol, same thing here, we're just going with the ammo variant, and the same build as pretty much every class in the game, just going as much damage as we can. And for Power Fist, you want to do either Balanced or Fencing. Now, I do want to talk about Fencing for specifically Chaos. I think for Chaos, Fencing is the best variant. You can hit a breakpoint with the follow-up on Chaos, like I mentioned earlier with Assault, but if you didn't watch that bit, basically the Fencing variant can hit a breakpoint on Chaos only, where if you do a fully charged Heavy and then do the follow-up, it will put them into Execute with the Fencing variant. And like I said in that variant, speed doesn't affect the charge time of the Heavy, but it does affect the speed of this new follow-up perk. So speed is actually kind of a nicer stat to have in Power Fist, but it's still not necessary in my opinion. But yeah, so for Chaos, I would definitely recommend Fencing. For Tyranids, though, I would definitely recommend Balanced, because that's the only way you can hit the follow-up breakpoint, where you do a fully charged Heavy, and then do the follow-up, and then you'll get a one-shot on Tyranids. So Balanced for Tyranids, fencing for chaos, but again, if you're not comfortable with balance timing, you can just go with fencing. It's fine. Honestly, Intimidating Aura is so overpowered, you probably don't even need a melee weapon. But, yeah, so pretty much it. Really quick, I did explain this in the Assault section, but for anybody who is coming back to the game and wasn't aware of this, Power Fist got a pseudo light rework. It has always had a shockwave and like a ranged shockwave on its heavy attack, but it was really short, and this description shows it. This description is still bugged. It used to be a 4-meter shockwave that would double to 8 meters with this perk. Now it is a 10-meter shockwave on default that doubles to 20 meters. It also has a multi-stage charge, which I've been mentioning throughout this. I forgot to mention that this got reworked in this bit of the video because I talked about it on Assault. But yeah, it has a multi-stage charge now, similar to Full Throttle on Chainsword or Aftershock on Thunderhammer, for example, where it has a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 charge, all escalating in damage. So, yeah, and something I do want to mention really quick is there's an alternate variant of this build without Intimidating Aura. So if you want to use Block Artificer Fist, which is a very, very strong fist, if you want to use a block version of it, I would swap Intimidating Aura for Conviction, because Intimidating Aura doesn't work with block weapons. Or you could go with Forward Momentum if you can get over the jank of shield bashing. But yeah, with this build you just become an absolute tank. It's so hard to kill you. But overall I do think the Intimidating Aura one with either the Balanced Fist or the Fencing one are better for Bulwark. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say about Bulwark. Okay, now for Sniper. So for Sniper's perk tree, we're going to be taking Melee Mastery because these two kind of suck. And we're going to be using Last Fusil. I also want to say for this build, this is a Last Fusil build. Last Fusil is still absolutely crazy. But yeah, we're going to be taking Melee Mastery, High Capacity for that extra ammo because ammo is really nice for this build since this is mostly a ranged build. Lethal Efficiency since we're using Last Fusil. And for the team perk, we're going to be taking Marksmanship. Now, I know people are going to kind of raise an eyebrow at this. You don't need to take this perk, but it is actually really nice for Last Fusil, believe it or not. And again, this is mainly a selfish kind of pick for you. You don't need to take this, it's not a necessity. You can just go with like Squad Renewal and Purification, but this will give you some of the highest DPS in the entire game if you're just looking to pump the most DPS in the game, or like some of the highest DPS in the game other than tactical. This will make it so that you do a lot more, because obviously you get a like intrinsic 10% damage buff, and then stacking it with this, you get another 10% damage buff, which is really good for Last Fusil, since Last Fusil hits really hard, so that number, 20%, is going to be better for something like Bolt Carbine. Again, I'm probably going to be showing two builds for this. I have two builds for Sniper that I think are insanely top tier for different reasons. But yeah, again, you can go Squad Renewal Purification if you want to be a little bit more of a team player with this. But I think this perk is very slept on for certain breakpoints and such. Now, I take Renewal here because it's nice to have that regeneration for your Cloak, because Cloak got a few changes this patch, so it has a little bit less uptime than usual. But yeah, again, Purification, Squad Renewal is another option you can take. Now, for this, you can take Targeted Shot. For this build, I would recommend it because you're kind of playing this build ranged. However, again, I do want to say you can go the melee variant, which you just do this, basically, instead. But I know a lot of people kind of struggle with the melee variant in co-op. It does have a little bit of a learning curve in co-op, since enemies don't just stand there and stare at you like they do in True Solo, for example. But yeah, I do think this is better for co-op, since you are not going to have too much aggro on you, and you can kind of just delete everything in the game with Targeted Shot and Last Fusil. Now, Lingering Concealment is kind of not worth picking anymore with a lot of the cloak changes they did. So Lingering Concealment actually does consume cloak energy now, and I think it's actually pretty bad now. I think Persistence is much better, and honestly this is kind of a pseudo buff to Sniper, in a lot of ways because you can now just get 24/7 hyper armor, which is really good. And you obviously take 20% less health damage, which is really nice too. Pattern of Excellence, I think this is the best signature in the game. 30-second cooldown for just getting 3 consecutive headshots to get 1 equipment charge. With this perk, you can literally spam like 20 Melta Bombs a game. I'm not even kidding. It's disgustingly good. I think the other 2 signatures don't even compare. Yeah, and especially when you're running it with like a bulk carbine or something. But we're running Last Fusil, and even then, it still just makes it so you can just pump so much equipment out. It's insane. Now for the prestige perks, I would personally take either Versatile Precision or Emperor's Grace first. These are 2 perks you're going to pick up. I would probably take, with this build in particular, Versatile Precision, but if you're going a melee build, go with Emperor's Grace first. But this perk is insanely busted. It just makes it so you have unlimited ammo, because this perk makes it so that literally any secondary kill, it could be on a Minoris, it could be on just some random enemy, does not matter what enemy, as long as you get a kill with a secondary weapon, it gives your primary weapon 15% of your ammo back on a 15-second cooldown. Now, something to note, this does not apply for gun strikes. Gun strikes do not apply. It is only just normal secondary weapon kills. And then obviously, like I said, second perk I would take is Emperor's Grace, and then the third perk I would take is Versatility. For the last one, it's kind of up to you on whether you want Indomitable Spirit, which is really good, or Conviction. I would personally go with Conviction. It's 15 seconds of 25% less health damage, makes it so you have a little bit more room for error. You can also take Exacting Focus if you're using a parry weapon, although I don't use parry weapons, so I don't use this very often. I would basically say every prestige perk here is very good and very top tier, other than Boosted Recharge. This perk sucks. But yeah, personally what I would go with, Versatile Precision, Emperor's Grace, Versatility, and Conviction. But again, Indomitable Spirit, Exacting Focus, really good. Now, for the Last Fusil, we're going to be taking the ammo variant for it, since ammo is very important for the Last Fusil, and we can get plenty of charge time on the perk. So we're going to be going top tree, and the reason for that is we don't need to go bottom tree for this anymore, because at the end of this they added an extra 20%, so we can have the same ammo as we had before, an extra 40% ammo, and still take every charge time node that Last Fusil has. And this makes it one of the highest DPS weapons in the game. Again, it's like a top 5. I think it's like maybe the second highest DPS weapon in the game, just behind Grenade Launcher. But yeah, it does disgusting damage. And it has 2 perks I want to point out, which is Adamant Velocity, and you can get a 55% charge time reduction when you have this up, since we're taking 2 charge time reductions here, which get to 30% and then 55, and it basically turns Last Fusil into a machine gun and an absolute DPS monster. It deletes bosses from the game. It is gross. It can, and since we take the headshot damage perks here, getting up to a 30% headshot damage, and if you have this, like I was mentioning, you can straight up just one-shot a ranged Majoris to the head, and they will explode, pop instantly, and die. That's how much damage Last Fusil is doing. And if it's a melee Majoris, it will just go into execute, but you can literally just machine gun entire hordes down with Last Fusil and just go, like, it's insane. And it has great horde clear because it has piercing, and you don't have to sacrifice any of your ammo because of lethal efficiency. And it actually synergizes with another perk, which is why playing low health is actually pretty good, is instant health. Getting, when you're below 30% HP, killing 3 enemies or more restores 5% HP, and this makes it so you can redline at that low HP, but again, it's not necessary. This build is still dummy strong if you're just playing normally and not playing into Adamant Velocity and instant health. But yeah, insanely strong. Heavy Bolt Pistol, again, has 2 ways of building it. You can build it this way, or you can build it this way, since this is one of the characters where you are proccing your ability a lot. So we can go down here and get this perk, which is basically going to be permanent 20% ability, like 20% damage for your weapon. I take the damage variant, but again, you can take the ammo variant if you want. I just personally don't find myself needing it, but if you find yourself needing it, absolutely go with the ammo variant. Still very good. Now for your melee. The melee, you only have one, which is combat knife, and block knife is by far the best. The other knives kind of suck. Fencing knife is pretty terrible. Has pretty terrible damage, really bad speed, and you really feel that speed on combat knife. And balanced is just okay. Uh, this is why I would recommend getting comfortable with block weapons, because block knife is ridiculously good, especially for a melee build, but even then, uh, it does so much damage, it has good horde clear, and yeah, it's very slept on. People sleep on block weapons so much for some reason. Now, for the perk tree, all you really need to know is we're taking Shadow Stab, because this is the only real, unlike Full Throttle, this is actually good. Shadow Stab is very good, especially on Sniper, since you can just go Cloak and charge it for free. And then we're taking Tide of Battle and this stuff because it makes your heavy combo really, really good for Horde Clear, which the combo for Horde Clear on this weapon is light, heavy. I'm trying to remember it really quick. It's light, heavy, light, heavy, repeat, if I remember correctly. I hope I got that right. It's kind of burned in my muscle memory at this point. And then yeah, most of this is just damage stuff again. Nothing really too important to highlight here. But yeah, that is the first build I have for Sniper. Alright, now this is the other build. This is a melee Sniper build. This build is insanely strong. I know a lot of people will struggle with it and co-op a bit. It does take a bit of learning because the enemies tend to walk away and go to your allies or such, but it is an insanely strong build. So for the skill tree, it's largely the same. We're taking melee mastery again. We're taking adaptability for more melee damage. We're taking dexterous hands for our bolt carbine. Squad renewal, because we don't need this anymore. Purification, because it's very good, although you can take efficient readiness. These are both really good for your bolt carbine. But purification is just kind of really nice for any time you make like a really bad mistake. But yeah, either one of these two, personal preference. And then tactical ambush, because obviously we're doing melee sniper this time with shadow stab. And then everything else is the same here with persistence for hyper armor and pattern of excellence, just to absolutely spam the shit out of melta bombs and such. Now for the perk tree, or for the prestige perks, we're gonna be taking Emperor's Grace first, then probably versatile precision, then I would take conviction, and then I would take like versatility. Same thing here, just different order I would take if you want to do melee sniper instead. Emperor's Grace, absolutely insane for melee sniper. You can literally throw a melta bomb down, pop it, go cloak, kill everything around you, and still live. Or if you see an enemy is about to hit you, you can just cloak, charge Shadow Strike, and hit them for free. But yeah. Now, for the bolt carbine, same thing as every bolt carbine I've said this video. It's, we're taking the ammo variant, same build as everything, min-maxing as much damage as possible, not that deep. Nothing really crazy to talk about here. Bolt pistol, exact same as the one for the other sniper build that I would recommend. Either this one, which we're going to be using cloak a lot, or you can go for this one. Either one of these builds are perfectly fine. I personally prefer the first one I showed, but this is another option that you can go with if you want to. And again, ammo or damage variant, it is completely personal preference. For the combat blade, it is the exact same. We're taking the block variant with this build with Shadow Stab, but we're going to be actually using Shadow Stab much more. In the other build, you don't really use Shadow Stab very much. This build is kind of the main thing. But yeah, nothing really too much to say here other than it's the classic melee sniper build. I still think this is one of the best builds in the game, especially for sniper. But yeah, this video is already getting really long, so I'm going to wrap this up quick. Alrighty, and last but certainly not least, we have Heavy. Heavy has gotten some pretty big glow ups this patch and some pretty renounding meta shifts. Last patch, I definitely would have said Heavy Bolter was the best, but that has changed. I think Heavy Bolter is pretty bad right now due to a lot of the changes they have done. So, talking about the skill tree, we're going to talk about the Multi-Melta version. I have two versions of this build, which is a Multi-Melta and Heavy Plasma Incinerator. This build is kind of focused on Tyranids more. You can take it into Chaos, but I do think Heavy Plasma is better. So this is kind of a Tyranid build. Uh, so we're going to take Multi-Kill since we're using Multi-Melta. Kind of a no-brainer if you're using Multi-Melta. We're going to take Fortitude. And the reason is that Strategic Stand got technically nerfed this patch. It got fixed. If you're unaware, Strategic Stand has been bugged since basically the launch of the game, and it's been doing way, way, way more, like giving you way more contested health than it's supposed to. So yeah, we're taking Fortitude now instead, because I personally don't think the Strategic Stand is all that good anymore after the bug fix. Now for this column, we're taking Overwhelming Power, although you can take Versatility or even Enhanced Force, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. You have a lot of flexibility in this column. But yeah, I personally take Overwhelming Power, and it works on your squad members too, which is really nice. So for your team perks, every team perk here is really good. But I am going to talk about Bonds of Brotherhood really quick. This perk is good. It is good in pubs, and it is good when you have teammates that are going down a lot. But when you have teammates that don't go down very often, or just basically never go down, this perk obviously has no value, and you might as well run a different team perk. So it's very situational. If you're going into pubs, I would definitely run Bonds of Brotherhood, but if you're going into like playing with friends and you know they're probably not going to die very much, Bonds of Brotherhood is not very good. And obviously, if you're a true solo player like myself, you get no value out of this. It's pretty useless. But as for the other two, I definitely think additional supplies is the best, especially for yourself, since ammo is insanely important for heavy. And encompassing Aegis is, I would say, just solid. But now for consecutive execution, I've talked about this a lot in this video. Consecutive execution, one of the best perks in the game. It's an equipment generating perk. It's very strong. Getting a melta bomb, getting a crack grenade, getting even just a normal frag grenade every 90 seconds is really strong. And since we're running a multi-melta, you're going to get a lot of value out of this pretty easily. Now, for this is again something where it's a little bit of personal preference. But with the other perk we're using in this column, I would recommend using Field Adjustment, because we kind of want our ability to train faster. So you can use Power Regulator. I personally have never really been a fan of Power Regulator. I would rather have the cooldown be faster, even if the durability is a bit worse. It's not that noticeable. But you can go with more durability too. Again, this column, very flexible. All the perks here are very strong. But with this build in particular, I would not take Power Regulator at all, because we're using Wrath of the Imperium. Again, another super, super slept on perk. Basically, when it goes off, when you expend all your energy on your Iron Halo, it's effectively a Melta Bomb going off. It will stagger literally every Majoris around you, kill every Minoris, do tons and tons of damage to Majoris enemy, or to Extremis enemies, I'm sorry. It is very good. For an alternate option, though, you can take Brute Force. Brute Force is very good. And if you're taking Brute Force, you might as well go with one of these two at that point, since you kind of want Iron Halo to be on cooldown more. But I would just go with Field Adjustment. Field Adjustment for me has just always been the best of the three, and I just think Wrath of the Imperium is better. And I know people are probably going to ask about Saving Grace. I think Saving Grace is bad. I think the only good res perk in this game is Bonds of Brotherhood and probably Res Banner on Bulwark. But yeah, so for signatures, offensive capability is super good for yourself. This is, like, I feel like most people don't realize how good this perk is. If you hate the Vine Mines, or whatever they're called, from the Tyranids, for example, it deals with them instantly. If there's Spore Mines coming close to you, it deals with them instantly. If there's a whole bunch of stuff around you for, like, Minoris, or like the little cultists, they will just die instantly. And in Majoris, it does a good amount of damage to. And since you're expending all of your energy most of the time to get value out of Wrath of the Imperium, you get pretty good synergy between these two here. But obviously another option here is Conversion Field, especially in co-op. 50% faster recharge is good, and it got buffed to be 20 meters now. So again, this is mostly personal preference. Both of these are insanely top tier. It just depends on what you are doing, and if you're playing pubs, Conversion Field is pretty good, but I just personally prefer going a little bit selfish with offensive capability. Now, for the prestige perks, these were going to be a joke, and then they reworked them, and they are insanely good. The first one I'm going to tell you to get instantly is Auxiliary Reload. This perk is so good and has fixed so many issues with this class. You basically have unlimited ammo with every weapon on this class now, because getting one magazine from an Extremis is crazy. It's crazy good. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain why this is really good. Very good perk. I would take this first instantly. Now the next one I would take too is Reverberating Impact. This makes Stomp so good. Stomp, I think, by its own is kind of just okay. Reverberating Impact makes it disgusting. 50% increased stomp radius makes it so when you're stomping, no Minoris can come touch you. Nothing is going to get close to you to where they can actually attack you. And it makes it really good for horde clear and conserving ammo, and just getting Minoris off of you. So this would be the second one I get. Third one I would get is definitely Conviction. Conviction is just one of the best perks in the entire game. You take 25% less damage when your armor is fully depleted. It makes it so that you're not losing as much health, so you have more chance to regain more of that health back with your weapon with contested health. So yeah. For the final perk, you can either choose between Exponential Force or Duelist. It's kind of up to you, or even Indomitable Spirit. These are all three really good perks. I think the only bad one here is Restorative Capacity, but these three, personal preference. I personally go with Duelist a lot of the time because I don't like balanced timings, even though they're not hard. But yeah, you can go with Exponential Force or Indomitable. All three of these are super solid options. Anyway, Multi-Melta. We're going with the ammo variant for it. The other two variants, the range variant is a meme. Range on Multi-Melta is a meme. It already has a lot of range, doesn't need any more. And the rapid fire variant is pretty damn good, but you are losing so much ammo that it's just not worth it in my opinion. For the perk tree, we're going basically full top for this perk. This perk is so good, especially when you combine it with the prestige perk where you get ammo on Extremis kill. You can just get 30% of your ammo back instantly, and it is super good. Yes, you have to kill them with the actual Multi-Melta itself, but I don't think that's that bad considering bottom tree here is worse in general for the perks you get. You can't get ammo capacity, you can't get this, or you can get this rate of fire, but you won't be able to dip down here to discipline, which is really good. And you have to get range, which again, like I said, range is kind of a meme. Decisive reload is okay, but again, I think elite restoration is just so much better. And just mostly damage perks again and ammo perks. Nothing too crazy here for Multi-Melta. And for the pistol, we're using heavy bolt pistol. Again, I use the damage variant. You can use the ammo variant if you really want to. I think damage variant is too valuable. However, you can use either one of the builds I've been showing throughout this video, so either this build, which was very strong, or since this is another class where you're going to be popping your ability quite a bit, you can go down here and get this perk right here. This is a very strong perk if you're on a class that can pop their ability a lot, and then go up here to get this perk, Tactical Precision, which is really good. So yeah, really all I got to say about this build. I'm going to move on to the Plasma Incinerator. So for Plasma Incinerator, you can go with, it's basically the same here. Everything I said about the Multi-Melta is the exact same. Everything I said about the Prestige perks is the exact same. The only thing you're going to change is obviously this first row, since multi-kill doesn't do anything for Plasma. And you can either go with auxiliary ammunition or restoration. Again, personal preference. If you're struggling with ammo, I would say auxiliary ammunition is better for Tyranids, but again, I think plasma is a chaos weapon. I think it is the premier absolutely destroy chaos, but it destroys Tyranids as well. Again, restoration, auxiliary ammunition, personal preference. For Plasma Incinerator, we're going with the rate of fire variant. With the ammo changes that have happened, you don't need the ammo variant. I've always thought the ammo variant was not good because, again, plasma weapons, you want to get as much rate of fire as you can, especially on heavy plasma, since heavy plasma has the slowest charge time out of every single weapon in the game, or every plasma weapon in the game. It's super slow. You have to stack charge time on it for it to be viable, in my opinion. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we take the rate of fire variant, and we go bottom tree. We get this charge time node, and we're getting as much ammo efficiency as we can. And taking the rapid fire, because these actually increase the charge time. These nodes not only increase the rate of fire of the little uncharged like plinks you can do, it also makes it so the charge time is faster. And again, just mostly getting stuff for damage and ammo. And we also have heavy immunity, so you don't lose any control when you get hit by certain attacks. I'm going to say it again because I feel like a lot of people are confused about how hyper armor works in this game. This gives you hyper armor, where any attack that would be a attack that only takes 1 pip of armor will do absolutely nothing to you. You will only take damage, you will not stagger. Any attack that deals more than 1 armor pip will stagger you, and you can never be knocked fully over by an attack like that. But yeah, so again, this is pretty simple. I don't really change the build on this. And yeah, that's pretty much every class in the game for their best builds in my opinion. This video was pretty damn long, and I'm going to keep the outro short, so hopefully you enjoy these builds, hopefully you find a build that maybe wins you your first absolute, or maybe even gets you through your first true solo if you're somebody who likes true solo like me. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you guys later. Enjoy the patch.